is Swami Kriyanandaji's birthday, and we have people here that are from varying levels, you could say, of participation with Ananda Sangha. There's a few here in the audience who it's their first day, and then others have been with us for many, many years. Some of you don't know that Swami Kriyananda, whose a painting of him has been made here, that he recently left his body on April 21st in Italy. And Swami Kriyananda was a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, and I lived about the last, 9 years or 10 years or something like that with Swami Kriyananda, and I want to speak about that a little bit today. Because I've never met a human being, anything like this, of this caliber, that you hear about the avatars that are up on this wall here, of people like Ram and Krishna, but it always seems that they were back then, in the past, and that nobody like that would be walking this earth today. But Swami Kriyananda's consciousness was so high, and he was a man, much more than a man. He was the greatest human being by far that I ever met. And it's very difficult for me to speak about him, to speak about my experiences with him. And I know that I will have to do so more and more in the future. But because many of the changes that occurred in me they were quiet, they were subtle, that it was his influence. It wasn't so much that he said, oh, now you go do this, and you study this, and be like this, and I'll change you into a human being like that. It was on a level of consciousness, on a level of magnetism, on a very subtle level. Let me give one story that may illustrate this point. Before meeting Swami Kriyananda in India, I had been living in Ananda village in America. And there I'd done all kinds of things to participate. And one of the things that I did there was plant tulips. This flower, there's a beautiful flower garden there, I think 10,000 flowers or something come up every spring. And then when I moved to India, someone was showing Swamiji this beautiful picture, it might have been a whole slideshow, I don't remember, of the tulips in Ananda village. And I wanted Swamiji to know that I was a part of Ananda Sangha, that I was in, that I'd been helping, that I wanted to help, that I was here to help this thing move forward. So when the picture came up, I said, Swamiji, I planted those, or I helped plant those, or whatever it was. And he went, and I thought, maybe, he was kind of getting old at that point, he was hard of hearing. I thought maybe he didn't hear me. And I just simply wanted to know that I was part of his work, that I was here to help. So louder, Swamiji, I helped to plant those. And I thought, I'm not doing this a third time. I don't know what's going on, but he definitely heard me this second time, and I'm done with this. And I went home and kind of thought and meditated on the interchange, and I realized the way that I was saying it was, I planted those flowers. And in that, Swamiji, and he wasn't going to say, now look here, mister, your ego's very big, and that we don't, he just subtly, and when I went home and I meditated, it was in the way that I said it. Had I said that I planted the flowers, they're beautiful, he would, oh yeah, that's beautiful. But that I planted the flowers. And so there were so many little interchanges with this over many, many years where I had to go, and I had to go within, and I had to see what's going on within me. Who is it that I want to become? And I had to feel within him, did he have the power to give me what I was looking for? That I came to him for one reason, and one reason only, and that was God realization. And so, that is obviously a big thing, and when one approaches a great soul like Swami Kriyananda like that, you wonder, does this man have what I am looking for? But I truly feel in my heart that Paramahansa Yogananda gave, I don't know why, but in the spiritual tradition it's called gave the mantle, gave his spiritual power, his spiritual glory to Swami Kriyananda. And Master told him, Rajarsi Janakananda told him also to Swami Kriyananda, you have a great work to do. And Rajarsi said, Master will give you the strength to do it. And Swami Kriyananda has founded 7 or 8 cooperative communities all over the world. And that might not sound like, okay, there's some people living together. Oh no. We have a community going on in its infant stage. I think it's been going on for 4 years now in Pune. It's no joke to start a spiritual community. That having the magnetism to attract souls and families, and that they would just see Swami Kriyananda. He would talk to them for a little bit, and they say, okay, I'm willing to quit my job. I'm willing, even if my parents tell me not to move there, I'm willing to move there anyways. I'm willing to take a huge risk, bring my children to this cooperative community and raise them in this type of environment. That it takes a tremendous amount of magnetism to be able to attract people to a community like this. And once you start attracting people to a community, then having the spiritual power to keep everyone meditating on a regular basis, to make sure that it just doesn't turn into a social club where people are enjoying life together but they're not meditating anymore, to make sure that the thing stays on track, and to make sure that people actually are finding God in these communities. Now, I was saying, how do you know if someone has that spiritual glory, that spiritual authority? Because the ones who say, I'm the greatest, come to me, I'll give you God. We have to be very wary of people like that. That the ones who truly have the spiritual power, they're so humble. I never saw anything but humility in Swami Kriyananda. And it was very hard to know how much he knew. It was very hard to know how great he was spiritually. But it is said on the spiritual path that you can tell how great a master is. The words are, you can tell a tree by the fruit it gives. That if it's a good tree, and if all the work has been done properly in the soil and everything, you can't know what's gone on in there in the past underneath the soil. But if it gives a good, nice fruit, you know it's an apple tree because it gives beautiful apples. You know that it's a good tree because they're tasty and beautiful. The same way, you know that you're dealing with a spiritual master when you look at his disciples. And so I've met so many souls from Ananda Sangha that have changed my life completely. That I spend 5 minutes with them. I'll just name one, Kirtani. That she lives in Assisi. She's the one of the directors there of Assisi. That I happened to be in the airport, getting ready to get on a plane to come here to Kolkata. And we spent 2 or 3 minutes together, and she said, get people serving together. Get them serving together. And a few other things, and I took that knowledge and we went and we painted the Cosma Center, and that something happened in there. But more than that, it was not her words, it was her vibration. That I could feel that something, when I left that meeting, I felt, gosh, I feel so happy inside. I feel so good. And before that I felt, okay, we all know that feeling. But after just meeting with this person, wow, I feel so good. And where did that come? That she learned how to be a true lover of God, a true disciple from Swami Kriyananda. And I just threw her name out there. Her husband is also a very wonderful soul, Anand, and he fills us all with great joy and laughter, that he's wonderful. And these are just 2 names. I don't want to give so many names because this thing is not about personalities. That it's not about he's good and he's no good in this. It's about God. And that the people that manifest God, that they are, as one person put, God's secret agents. And one of Swamiji's other, you could call him a disciple if you will, he started a club called God's Secret Agents. And I was reading someone's blog and he said, I signed up to be one of God's secret agents. And he was in an airport and the flight was late, or something was going on, snow, or so you've got all of these passengers, everybody's grumpy, and can you believe I'm missing this flight? And there was a piano there. And this person who decided to be one of God's secret agents, he went to the piano and he just started playing one of Swamiji's melodies. He didn't say, I'm playing this or that, and nobody in that audience probably knew what it was. But just him playing that for 5 or 10 minutes, suddenly the whole crowd was transformed by Swami Kriyananda's music. In Swami Kriyananda's music, you have to, yes, listen to it in the beginning, but then more than that, Swamiji said, if you want to get to know me, listen to my music. It's something more subtle, something being communicated there. That he would say that it's not my music. That if he never would write one more song again, he was happy. He did it because God told him to. And then he would feel, okay, God wants me to write a melody that expresses, you can listen to his melody about Mount Vesuvius, that volcano in Italy that erupted. And then he says, okay, God, how do I write a melody about this? And then he'll write that melody, and you'll find, even though this is about a terrible incident that happened so long ago, that somehow you still feel some deep peace coming from this melody. Some sense of time takes care of everything, and really everything's okay. And so he said, those melodies weren't his, those were coming from God. And that not only is Swamiji given music, I just recently saw a slideshow, and I hope that we can keep coming and share all of these things with you. Swamiji's given so much, it's absolutely unbelievable. I saw a slideshow that Swamiji made called Different Worlds. And he took pictures of people from all over the world, from, I don't even know where, many different countries. I can't remember, I was going to try and list all the different countries, but Swamiji traveled so many places, that's hard. But then he shows, oh, this person, look into their eyes, this person's sad. And then he'll show somebody else from a completely different culture, maybe from Germany, and it's that same sadness. And then he'll show happiness in someone's face. He'll say, look at the smile, look at the eyes, look at the face. And then he'll show, and he shows, it's not something that whether you're born in Peru or whether you're born in Italy, that happiness is a universal thing, and that it is expressed in everybody's faces, and that you can see as life goes on. You can see what people make of themselves as they live life. Now, I want to say that Master said, I don't know the exact percentage because I've heard it quoted different ways. I've heard some people say, Master said, he said that if you do 1% of what I tell you, you'll find realization in this lifetime. I've heard other people say 5%, 10%. But the point is, if you do even a little bit of what Master said, then you can find God realization. Okay, maybe we're not going to find God realization in this lifetime. But if we try to tune in, what are all of the things that Master said, and try and do as many of them as we can achieve a great level of happiness. And in this same line of reasoning, we're going to bring you all of the things that Swamiji did. I want to share with you all of Swamiji's music. I want to get a choir going here. We had one going, and we'll get another one going here, where we sing Swamiji's music. Swamiji has something called Philosophy in Song. And so he asked me to join the choir, and when he asked, well, you don't know. If you heard me sing 3 notes, you'd probably change your mind. But he knew what he was doing. He knew that it would change me on the inside, those vibrations. And I found that days later, I'd be walking down the street, and some melody would come of Swamiji's, some point in philosophy, and I would understand some deep point of philosophy on the spiritual path through his music. And I realized, wow, how powerful is this music. Swamiji has also written, nobody can even keep up with the man, I think it's 150 books, and I'll tell another story about that. And so we can read all of these different books, we can tune in, we can get to learn about Master, we can do the spiritual path. Swamiji wrote a course, which I hope we can bring some form of it here, called the Material Success Through Yoga Principles course. He was in the hospital with pneumonia, and the doctor came up to him and said that, I see you're a spiritual man, I want to be good in this world, but in my profession I have to cheat in order to make it as a doctor. Because if I don't prescribe this medicine or make this one cost a little bit more or whatever, this guy next door is going to do it, and I have a child in college, abroad, I have this responsibility, I have to do it. And Swamiji said, normally when you're lying down like, sick as anything, people don't come to you for advice. He's supposed to be asking the doctor for advice, and this thing is completely flip-flopped. But he said that right then he called his old secretary, Keshav, and he said, write this down. And he dictated this course called Material Success Through Yoga Principles. And we must share that with everyone here. We must share this with the whole world. It's the story of all the struggles that Swami Kriyananda went through, of him building a temple, the darn thing burning down, with him building a community, the community burning down, and with him upholding Dharma. And with someone giving a lawsuit against Swamiji, they spent $50 million trying to destroy him. And now you look at Ananda Sangha. It's very strong all over the world. And Swamiji always just, okay, this bad thing's happening to me. I'll do truth. I'll do right. I wanted to talk also about Swamiji, that spirit he had of writing books. So when he was writing these Material Success Through Yoga Principles, of course, I was typesetting them. So I would get the document from him in Word, Microsoft Word, and then I'd have to lay it out using these particular programs to put it in a book format. And I got it in my mind, this guy, Swamiji, he's pretty old. I don't know how old he was at that time. I'm this strong young man. And that, you know, he'd written maybe 12 or 13 of these things, and he still had 13 more to write, I think, because he was giving them so that we could hand one out every 2 weeks and have a full year's course. And so I got it in my mind, I'm going to just typeset all of these 13 that he's already done, and then just be like, okay, Swami, come on, when are you going to write the next one? I'm ready, I'm waiting. And I got about maybe 8 or 9 of them typeset. And then it's karma. It caught up. Suddenly then I was in charge, this thing landed on me and this thing. And there was a day Swamiji and I were walking up the stairs, and I just felt the weight of all of these responsibilities. I was nowhere near catching up to the man, nor did I ever. This guy, he had so much energy, he could just do amazing things. But we were walking up the stairs together, and I just felt I just got to put one in front of the other. And I think he asked me to hold him because he was supposed to be the old man, you know, needed support. And he's just, come on, let's go up the stairs. And I realized, there's something going on. There's something going on inside this guy. Yes, he has an old body, but there's something definitely going on. Another story in that realm. Because in the beginning I wanted to know, who is this Swami Kriyananda? Does he have what I want? And yes, he proved it to me in 1,000 ways. I'm not going to share all of them here today. Many of them are too personal. But in the beginning, I wanted to know. And he had given a lecture, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands or whatever came. And afterwards he was at his home. And he was so tired afterwards, I thought he was just going to go down into the soup or something. He could barely lift the fork to his mouth. And I had some quick question to ask him. And I asked him, I was just kind of looking, wondering, I was trying to understand this. There's a human form, and then there's something divine on the inside. And does that divine always manifest as perfect health or perfect whatever? And he knew what I was thinking. And he looked at me and he said something to the effect that the body's very tired, but inside is pure joy. And I just looked into his eyes, and there was no denying it. And I knew at that moment that he had what I wanted. Another thing, I have never met a human being who had so many physical ailments that there was a point where you just knew they were not his. I took a ride, one of the other brahmacharis is a doctor, and we went to Bangalore together on the bus, and we started discussing, and I said, did you know that Swamiji had a bone spur in his ankle, and that he had heart surgery, and that he has a pacemaker, and that he had hip surgery, and that he had this, and while I was with him he had this cancer, and that he had this, and I think he had cancer twice, I don't remember, and then he had this and that, and then Dr. Ditya, oh, and did you know that he had this, and that he broke this bone, and he broke that, and he had this. It was almost like every other day the man had, but he would just keep going, we're going for God, who's with me, let's go, and he took on so many souls' karma. And he told his secretary Narayani that you have to do it in this world. That the saints can't take on that physical karma in the astral world. That God has to put a saint down here in a physical body that'll break his arm or do this or do that for us. And we need this because he was able to just always cheerful and even-minded. He'd often tell a story about how he got a root canal and that he was just able to, it's all right, that the pain just didn't even bother him. And recently a friend of mine had a root canal and tried. Oh, how did Swamiji do that? How did Swamiji do that? But Swamiji could do all kinds of he'd never show you, he'd never tell you. I met so many people that just thought, what a nice old man, he's so cute. And they had no idea, and they'd just go away and think, what a nice guy. And then others, they would come and they would take the nectar. That when Swamiji met Anandamoy Ma, Anandamoy Ma said of him, Anandamoy Ma said to her disciples afterwards, I'm a lotus, and Swami Kriyananda is the bee. And he comes in, takes the nectar, and then she said to the rest of her disciples, you are the croaking frogs who said, bah, bah, what about me, ribbit, ribbit, what about me? And trying to understand on this intellectual level and everything and asking all of these questions. And Swamiji would just sit in the back when he was with Anandamoy Ma. He would meditate, and he knew that God was there, and he would drink deeply of that God realization. And they would commune on these levels that aren't really worth talking about, that we have to experience these for ourselves. We have to transform ourselves on the inside. And it is the Guru's grace that transforms us. That one day Swami Kriyananda was feeling proud that he had achieved some quality. It may have even been humility, which is a funny thing, because if you're feeling proud of achieving humility, that's not working. But he knew that he had been changing. And Master right away caught his thought and said, just look how I have changed Walters. And I was showing a few people a photograph of myself before I met Swami Kriyananda. I'm happy to share it with anyone else who wants to see after the satsang. That I feel the same way, that I have nothing to do with any transformation that's happened. It's been all Swami Kriyananda and his grace, that he has transformed me. When I look back, I can't even recognize who was that person. It seems that lifetimes that have just been transforming and changing, and it's all due to Swami Kriyananda's power, and that he had that power, he still has that power. That when Paramahansa Yogananda left his body, I believe it was Rajarsi, said, now he has even more power to help us, to transform all of us. So Naya Swami Vijay and I, we went up to Italy for Swami Kriyananda's funeral. That's where he left his body. And I could see in the eyes of his disciples that Swami Kriyananda's power now had flown, that it was in them, that he still was alive, but his power was different, that he was not confined to a little point in space anymore, and that now he could work through all of those that were in tune with him. And so I want to urge everyone, all of us, that we can deeply tune in to Swamiji, we can tune in to Master. This is another very important point that I want to make today. That Master said that he was the last of these 5 lines, and of these 5, that he was the last of these. The exact words he said, I'm the last in our line of gurus. Yet Swami Kriyananda has described that what he meant by those words was that he was the last in this line of avatars. But this path given to us by Babaji certainly is making many people that are very qualified to be guru. And Swami Kriyananda was certainly one of these people. Only at the end of his life, in the last monk satsang, I at least only heard him openly declare, fine, call me guru. It's absolutely not a problem. Yes. And then one of the other Brahmacharis again said, is it okay? Can we call you guru? Because Swamiji, and he said yes. Swamiji only wanted to be a perfect channel for his guru. And that is what the guru is. Someone once asked Master, they said something like, your disciples, blah, blah, blah. And Master said, that's what they say. And the person said, what do you mean? Why do you say that's what they say? And he said, because those aren't my disciples. I don't think that God is the guru, that those are God's disciples. And Swami Kriyananda, he had that humility. Yet at the same time, St. Francis, he was blind. And yet, because he'd taken on the illness of other people, he would go around raising the dead. That he had all of these powers, that he could achieve anything he wanted with spirituality. And he would always do it in the name of Jesus Christ. And so Swami Kriyananda always did everything that he was in the name of Paramahansa Yogananda. And he set an example for all of us on how we can become perfect disciples. And being a disciple does not mean having a servile attitude, having this go ahead and step on me and walk on me and I don't care. Being a disciple empowers us. It gives us a great power to stand up for what is right and for what is true. The words of Sri Yukteswar, someone used this to describe Sri Yukteswar. Stronger than thunder where principles are at stake, and softer than a flower where compassion was concerned. And that's what we all become. We become both of those. That we can stand up for principles and for what is right, for Dharma, for truth in this world, and yet when it comes to helping others, to being kind to other human beings, we become absolutely just as kind and as soft as the most gentle human being. There was one more story that I wanted to share about Swami Kriyananda, and it's not a particular story, but there was a time where we were in some group satsang and Swamiji was doing something. I don't remember the details, but somebody came and it was a very awkward social situation. I don't remember what it was. Maybe somebody said something, but it was just completely awkward and everybody was just quiet and nobody knew what to do. And Swami Kriyananda said then the exact right thing. That person smiled, the tension in the room was gone, and everything was just fine, and everything was flowing once again. And I just wondered, how does he do that? There's not some, and I watched him do it again and again and again. That he was everybody's best friend, and he could always do the right thing, the appropriate thing, at any given situation, any given moment. And you can't study these things. There's no book out there that teaches you, say X, Y, and Z when social situation is A, B, C. That he had something happening on the inside that could make everything on the outside okay. And not only just for one or two people, for everybody at all times. And so I'll end with this, that when I went to my brother's funeral, someone came up to me afterwards and said, "I hope my funeral's like that." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "So many people came and they had so much respect, and he obviously was a good person and touched so many people's lives." And I just don't think like that. I just want to be a good person, you know, whatever happens, fine, but I want to help people. But I realized how she was thinking, and I said, well, just be as good of a person as you can and try to help as many people. By the end of your life, that you will have the respect of many people, and many people will love you. Now, at this funeral we were at of Swami Kriyananda, saying those words I just said about my brother, that does not describe it at all. Swami Kriyananda had met some lady just once, for the first time in her life, maybe just said a few words to her, or she attended a satsang, maybe didn't meet him personally, I don't know the details. And then Swamiji leaves his body. That lady was so touched by that one meeting of Swamiji that she stayed in the temple for days, for 2 or 3 days, just staying there, praying, meditating, trying to receive more of Swamiji's vibration and trying to send more and more light to Swami Kriyananda. That we saw people coming from all over the world. Their lives hadn't been touched a little bit. Their lives had been completely transformed from people whose lives were just a wreck to people who had become saintly. And there was many, many people coming from everywhere. And when you see that, you know that it's a power that's not a human power, that there's a divine power that was flowing through that personality of Swami Kriyananda that was able to touch many souls, and that this isn't my prediction, it's just simply truth, that Swami Kriyananda, that his life, because of Master, will touch the whole world. That Master said millions will find God through his translation, or whatever you want to call it, of the Bhagavad Gita, his interpretation. And that we're just at the beginning of Ananda Sangha, we're just at the beginning of self-realization of the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. It is going to overtake the world. The same way that people who believe in Krishna, the same way that Christianity is spread everywhere, that Paramahansa Yogananda will become a household name, and these teachings of self-realization and how we can find God will. And it's really due, I'll give SRF some credit, but it's really due to one man, Swami Kriyananda. That you've never met someone who labored tirelessly for for decades and decades to put this message of truth, of light, and love all over the world. I am honored, I am grateful forever that I consider myself a disciple of Swami Kriyananda, that he took me in. It's been a joy to share just a little bit about Swamiji.